Captain Haiyan Wu gripped the armrests of his command chair as another explosion rocked the bridge. The lights flickered, and somewhere behind him, someone was screaming into a communication device. His ship, the Steadfast Dawn, was dying. He had known this for the past 20 minutes, but knowing and accepting were two different things. Shield integrity at 12%, Lieutenant Jisoo reported from her tactical station. Her voice was steady, but Haiyan Wu could hear the tremor underneath. She was young, too young to die in a battle they never had a chance of winning. Captain, the morning star just went dark. No life signs. Haiyan Wu closed his eyes for a moment. The morning star had carried 300 souls. Good people, families. Now they were just debris floating in the black. He forced himself to look at the main view screen, where the battle unfolded in terrible clarity. The Keltharan fleet surrounded them like predators, circling wounded prey. Their ships were massive things, all sharp angles and gleaming metal, bristling with weapons that tore through coalition shields like paper. This was supposed to be a simple defense operation. Hold the line while the colonists evacuated from Terran 5. The intelligence reports said the Keltharans would send a small raiding force, maybe 3 or 4 ships. They had sent 30. The reports were wrong, or perhaps the Keltharans simply did not care about fair fights. Haiyan Wu suspected the latter. "Sir, the evacuation transports are away," his communications officer Min Su announced. "They are burning hard for the jump point. They should make it if we can buy them another 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Haiyan Wu almost laughed. They would be lucky to last 5. He looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Jisoo at tactical, her hands flying over her controls as she tried to coordinate their failing defenses. Haiyan at engineering, sweat pouring down his face as he rerouted power from one failing system to another. Young Sora at weapons, her jaw set in determination as she fired their last remaining missiles at targets she knew she could not kill. And Minsu, still trying to maintain communications with the scattered remnants of their fleet. "All ships," Haiyan Wu said into the fleet channel. His voice came out calmer than he felt. "Form up on the Steadfast Dawn. We are going to buy our people time to escape. Whatever happens, we make them pay for every second." Acknowledgments came back from the 8 remaining coalition ships. 8 out of 42. The Keltharans had butchered them. Haiyan Wu watched as his fleet formed a ragged defensive line between the enemy and the fleeing transports. It was a gesture, nothing more. The Keltharan dreadnought alone could destroy all of them without slowing down. "Captain, the dreadnought is charging its main cannon," Jisoo said. Her voice finally broke. "Targeting the planet. Sir, there are still 2 million people down there who did not make it to the transports." Haiyan Wu felt something cold settle in his chest. The Keltharans were not just here to conquer. They were here to exterminate. He had heard stories about what they did to species that resisted, but he had never truly believed the reports. Surely no civilized race would commit such atrocities. He had been a fool. The dreadnought's cannon began to glow with a sickly green light. Haiyan Wu knew what came next. One shot, and the entire planet would burn. 2 million lives erased in an instant. He wanted to do something, anything, but what could he do? His weapons were depleted. His shields were failing. He was a captain of a dying ship in a lost battle. "It has been an honor serving with all of you," Haiyan Wu said quietly to his crew. Several of them looked at him with wet eyes. Sora was crying openly now, but she kept her hands on her weapons console. Haiyan was praying in a language Haiyan Wu did not recognize. Minsu was holding a picture of someone, probably family. The dreadnought's cannon reached full charge. Haiyan Wu closed his eyes. At least it would be quick. Every alarm on the bridge started screaming at once. Haiyan Wu's eyes snapped open. His view screen was filled with warning indicators. all of them pointing to the same location. Something was happening behind the Keltharan fleet. Space itself seemed to be tearing open, reality folding in ways that made his eyes hurt to watch. The tear grew larger, a wound in the fabric of the universe, and from it emerged something impossible. It was a ship, but calling it merely a ship was like calling a star merely a light. It dwarfed even the Keltharan dreadnought, a massive construct of dark metal and flowing energy patterns that pulsed like a living heartbeat. The hull bore markings in a script Haiyan Wu had never seen, geometric patterns that seemed to shift when he looked at them directly. But near the bow, in clear galactic common script, was a single word, indomitable. "What is that?" Jisoo whispered. Every screen on her console was trying to analyze the vessel and failing. The readings made no sense. Mass estimates fluctuated wildly. Energy signatures were off every known scale. The ship seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, as if reality could not quite decide where it actually was. A transmission came through, audio only. The voice was female, calm, almost pleasant, as if she were commenting on the weather rather than appearing in the middle of a battle. "Attention all vessels. This is Commander Minji of the Terran Defense Forces, commanding the warship Indomitable. You are hereby ordered to cease all hostile actions immediately. Power down your weapons and await further instructions. Terran?" Haiyan Wu had never heard of any species called Terrans. He looked at Minsu, who shook his head in confusion. The Keltharan response came quickly, a snarling voice filled with contempt. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Keltharan Dominion space and interfered with Dominion affairs. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." There was a pause. Then Commander Minji spoke again, and this time there was something cold in her pleasant tone. "We gave you a chance. You chose poorly." The Keltharan dreadnought fired, not at the planet, but at the unknown vessel. A massive beam of energy, enough to vaporize a small moon, lanced across space toward the Indomitable. Haiyan Wu watched, certain he was about to witness the destruction of whoever these Terrans were. The beam hit something 10 meters from the Indomitable's hull and simply stopped. It spread out across an invisible barrier, dissipating like water against stone. The Terran ship did not even move. From somewhere on its hull, a weapon activated. Haiyan Wu could not see it fire, but he saw the result. The Keltharan dreadnought came apart. Not exploded, not destroyed, simply came apart, disintegrating into its component atoms as if it had never been. One moment it was there, a massive weapon of war. The next moment it was a cloud of expanding particles. 3,000 Keltharans died in absolute silence. The bridge of the steadfast dawn was completely quiet. No one spoke. No one moved. They simply stared at the view screen, where a dreadnought had been seconds before. Haiyan Wu felt his mind trying to process what he had just witnessed and failing completely. "Commander," Minji's voice came through again, still calm, still pleasant. "We will not repeat our request. Cease hostilities now." The remaining Keltharan ships tried to run. They fired every weapon they had at the Indomitable and tried to jump away. None of them made it. The Terran ship moved, and moved impossibly fast. It was in 5 places at once, weapons firing with precise surgical accuracy. Keltharan ships died or were crippled, their engines and weapon systems destroyed in seconds. In less than 3 minutes, the battle was over. The Keltharan fleet was debris or drifting hulks. Not a single coalition ship had been fired upon. The Indomitable positioned itself between Haiyan Wu's fleet and the disabled enemy vessels, a silent guardian. "Captain Haiyan Wu of the Steadfast Dawn," Commander Minji said. "On behalf of humanity, we apologize for not arriving sooner. We would like permission to come aboard your vessel and introduce ourselves properly. We have much to discuss." Haiyan Wu found his voice, though it came out as a croak. Permission granted. Please dock at port 3. He looked at his crew, seeing his own shock reflected in their faces. Jizu was staring at her console as if it had betrayed her. Daihan's mouth was hanging open. Sora had stopped crying and was now just looking confused. Minsu was the first to speak. Captain, what just happened? Haiyan Wu did not have an answer. Nothing in this battle had stayed the same. The docking port of the Steadfast Dawn had seen better days. Scorch marks covered the walls from the earlier firefight when Keltheron boarding drones had tried to breach the hull. Emergency lighting cast everything in a harsh red glow. Haiyan Wu stood with a small honor guard, waiting. His uniform was torn at the shoulder, and he had a bandage across his forehead from where he had been thrown against his command console. But he stood straight. Whatever these Terrans were, they deserved respect for saving his people. The airlock cycled. Haiyan Wu held his breath. The door opened, and Commander Minji stepped through. She was human. That was the first thought that struck Haiyan Wu. She looked remarkably like a Ylmer, his own species. 2 arms, 2 legs, bilateral symmetry. Her face was different in subtle ways, the bone structure slightly more pronounced, the eyes a lighter color than most Ylmer. She wore a dark uniform with minimal decoration, just a few symbols on her collar. Behind her came 2 others, both armed, but carrying their weapons in a relaxed manner. One was male, tall, and broad-shouldered. The other was female, shorter, but with the same alert posture. Captain Haiyan Wu, Minji said, extending her hand in what he recognized as a greeting gesture common to several species. Thank you for allowing us aboard. I wish our first meeting could be under better circumstances. Haiyan Wu took her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. Commander Minji, you saved my fleet and 2 million people on the planet below. The circumstances could have been much worse. Minji smiled, but it did not quite reach her eyes. May we speak privately? There is much we need to discuss, and not all of it should be overheard. They made their way to the captain's ready room, a small chamber off the main bridge. Haiyan Wu's crew watched them pass with open curiosity. He could not blame them. In the span of an hour, they had gone from certain death to safety, courtesy of a species no one had ever heard of. The ready room was barely big enough for 4 people, and the walls were covered in star maps and tactical displays. Minji studied them with interest as she took a seat. You are wondering who we are, Minji said. It was not a question. You are wondering where we came from, how we developed our technology, and why we intervened today. These are all reasonable questions. I have 100 questions, Haiyan Wu admitted. But the first one is the simplest. What are Terrans? I have studied every major species in the galactic database. I have never heard of your people. We call ourselves humans, Minji said. Terran is simply a designation based on our home world, Terra. You would call it Earth in your linguistic database, though I doubt you have any records of it. Our world lies far beyond the galactic rim. In a region your charts mark as uninhabitable due to spatial anomalies and radiation storms. Haiyan Wu blinked. That region is considered a dead zone. No life could possibly evolve there. And yet we did, Minji said with a slight smile. Life finds a way, Captain. Earth was not a kind mother to humanity. We evolved in a hostile environment, competing with creatures that could kill us with ease. We had no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. What we had was our minds and our stubborn refusal to die. She pulled out a small device and projected a hologram of a planet, blue and green, beautiful from space. This is Earth. We have been spacefaring for approximately 250 of your standard years. For most of that time, we have been exploring the space around our world, slowly expanding outward. About 40 years ago, we reached the edge of what you call civilized space. 40 years? Hyen Wu repeated. You have known about us for 40 years and never made contact? Minji's expression grew serious. Our first encounter with galactic civilization was not a pleasant one. We received a distress signal from a colony ship. By the time we arrived, everyone aboard was dead. Men, women, children. The ship had been boarded by Keltharan raiders. They took everything of value and left the colonists to suffocate in the dark. Hyen Wu felt his stomach turn. He had heard stories about Keltharan piracy, but this was brutal even by their standards. We took the bodies home and gave them proper burials, Minji continued. Then we began to watch. We sent stealth vessels into your space, gathering information, learning your languages, studying your cultures. What we found troubled us. The Keltharans were not an isolated incident. They were a pattern. A powerful empire built on conquest and slavery. And the galactic community did nothing to stop them. The coalition has protested Keltharan actions for decades, Hyen Wu said defensively. Protested, yes. Acted, no. Minji's voice was not accusatory, just stating facts. We found records of 17 species that the Keltharans have driven to extinction in the past 2 centuries. 17 entire civilizations gone. And the galactic councils held debates and passed resolutions that accomplished nothing. She leaned forward. Humanity decided we could not stand by and watch. But we also knew that revealing ourselves unprepared would be disastrous. If the Keltharans or others saw us as a threat, they might unite against us. If they saw us as weak, they would try to conquer us. So we waited. We watched. We prepared. And when we were ready, we acted. Why today? Hyen Wu asked. Why here? Because we could not wait any longer. Our intelligence indicated the Keltharans were planning a full extermination operation on Terran 5. 2 million people were about to die, and your coalition fleet did not have the strength to stop them. We decided this would be our introduction to the galaxy. We would show everyone, all at once, that the old rules no longer apply. A chime interrupted them. It was Jisu's voice, tight with tension. Captain, you need to see this. New contacts entering the system. A lot of them. Hyen Wu and Minji rushed back to the bridge. The view screen showed a nightmare. Keltharan reinforcements were pouring through the jump gates. Dozens of ships, then hundreds. A full battle fleet, enough firepower to sterilize a dozen planets. Hyen Wu felt his blood run cold. They called in everything. Hyen whispered from his engineering station. We are looking at half the Keltharan military. Hyen Wu turned to Minji, expecting to see fear or concern. Instead, she simply looked thoughtful. She activated her wrist communicator and spoke 2 words. Protocol Prometheus. The space around Terran 5 changed. Ships appeared, not through jump gates or by dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They simply appeared, hundreds of them, all around the planet. They had been there all along, invisible, waiting. Each ship was similar in size and design to the Indomitable, and each one bristled with weapons that Hyen Wu's sensors could not properly categorize. You had a fleet here the entire time, Hyen Wu said quietly. You were watching us fight and die, and you had a fleet here. Minji met his eyes. We were ensuring that if the Keltharans escalated, we could respond appropriately. I am sorry, Captain, but we needed to wait until they committed their forces. If we had revealed ourselves too soon, they would have scattered, and we would have spent years hunting them down while they continued their atrocities. On the view screen, the Keltharan fleet was adjusting formation. A transmission came through, harsh and demanding. Unknown vessels, identify yourselves immediately. You have violated Dominion space and attacked Dominion forces. "This is an act of war." A new voice responded, male, older, carrying the weight of authority. "Caltheron forces, this is Fleet Admiral Tai Yang of the Terran Defense Forces. You have entered a protected zone and committed acts of genocide against a civilian population. Your aggression ends today. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." The Caltheron response was a wave of weapons fire. Every ship in their fleet opened up simultaneously, thousands of energy beams lancing across space toward the human vessels. The human fleet did not even attempt to dodge. Shields flared into visibility, geometric patterns of light that absorbed the impacts without strain. Then the humans returned fire-god Haiyan Wu had thought he understood space combat. He had studied tactics for years at the academy. He had fought in 3 campaigns before today. He realized now that he understood nothing. The human fleet moved with impossible coordination, each ship perfectly positioned to support the others. Their weapons did not simply destroy targets. They adapted. The first shots tested Caltheron's shields. The second shots bypassed them entirely. Caltheron's ships began to die. Not quickly, not all at once, but with methodical precision. The humans were not fighting with rage or hatred. They were working, completing a task with professional efficiency. When a Caltheron vessel attempted to surrender, the humans accepted, disabling the ship and moving to the next target. When a vessel tried to flee, it was disabled before it could reach the jump gate. When a vessel fought to the last, it was destroyed. "They are not just winning," Jisoo said in an awed voice. "They are teaching. Every move the Caltherans make, the humans counter it. They are showing the Caltherans that nothing they do will work." The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 37 minutes. When it was over, the Caltheron fleet was either destroyed or drifting in space, powerless and defenseless. The human fleet regrouped around Terran 5, a defensive perimeter that nothing could breach. Fleet Admiral Tai Yang's voice came through on an open channel, broadcast to every ship and every planet in the region. "To all civilizations receiving this message, hear this. Humanity has emerged into galactic society. We come in peace, but we will not tolerate aggression against the defenseless. The Caltheron Dominion's expansion ends today. Any species that continues policies of genocide or slavery will face the consequences. We offer friendship and trade to all who desire it. But make no mistake, the galaxy has changed. The strong will no longer prey upon the weak without answer." Haiyan Wu sat down in his command chair, his legs suddenly weak. Around him, his crew was silent, absorbing what they had witnessed. Humanity had just rewritten the rules of galactic politics in less than an hour. Minji stood beside him, watching the view screen. "I hope you understand, Captain. We did not want war. But sometimes peace requires that evil be stopped by force." "I understand," Haiyan Wu said quietly. "I just wonder what comes next." "That," Minji said, "depends on how the galaxy chooses to respond." The medical bay of the steadfast dawn smelled of disinfectant and burned electronics. Dr. Yunji moved between the wounded, her staff working frantically to stabilize patients. The battle might be over, but people were still dying from injuries sustained during the fighting. She had been awake for 18 hours. Straight, and her hands shook as she worked. When the message came through that Commander Minji was bringing wounded from the human fleet, Yunji almost laughed. Now she was treating aliens she had never heard of until an hour ago. The human arrived on a stretcher, carried by 2 human medics in dark uniforms. They transferred him to a medical bed with practiced efficiency. Yunji stepped forward, studying her patient. He was male, young, with dark hair, matted with blood from a head wound. His uniform was torn, revealing pale skin beneath. The injury looked painful, but not life-threatening. What happened? Yoonji asked the medics. Systems accident during the battle, one of them replied. Her accent was strange, but her galactic common was fluent. He was thrown into a bulkhead when we took evasive maneuvers. Probable concussion, possible fractured ribs. Yoonji nodded and began her examination. She had treated dozens of species during her career, but humans were remarkably similar to Yulmer in basic biology. 2 lungs, 1 heart slightly left of center, bilateral symmetry. But as she worked, she noticed differences. The bone structure was denser than expected. The muscle tissue showed unusual fiber composition. When she took a blood sample for analysis, the results made her pause. This cannot be right, she muttered, running the test again. The same results appeared. Human blood had an oxygen-carrying capacity far beyond normal parameters. Their immune system was aggressive to the point of attacking everything foreign. The white cell count was astronomical. She called for Dae-Hyun, who had some medical training from his time in the engineering course. Look at this, she said, showing him the readouts. This is a human immune system. It treats galactic pathogens like minor threats. I introduced a sample of Keltheron bacterial agent that would hospitalize most species. The human cells destroyed it in under 2 minutes. Dae-Hyun whistled softly. Where did they evolve? A plague world? Something like that, I think. Yoonji applied a dermal regenerator to the human's head wound, watching in fascination as the tissue began to heal at nearly twice the normal rate. Their biology is built for survival. Redundant systems, rapid healing, aggressive immune response. This is a species that had to fight for every day of its existence. The human's eyes opened. He looked around in confusion and focused on Yoonji. Where am I? You are aboard the coalition ship Steadfast Dawn, Yoonji said in her calmest voice. You were injured during the battle. You are safe now. The human tried to sit up, winced, and lay back down. Did we win? You won, Dae-Hyun said. Very thoroughly. A slight smile crossed the human's face. Then he closed his eyes again. Good, that is good. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Captain Hyun Woo was dealing with the aftermath of the battle. Reports were flooding in from across the system. The evacuation transports had reached safety. The Keltheran fleet was secured, and every ship in the sector was demanding answers about the humans. Hyun Woo had no answers to give them. He barely understood what had happened himself. Commander, Minji had returned to the Indomitable, but promised to meet again soon. Hyun Woo needed that meeting. He needed answers. The Coalition Council was screening for information. The remaining Keltheron ships were sending threats and demands. And somewhere out there, the rest of the galaxy was learning that a new power had emerged. The call came 3 hours later. Minji requested a formal meeting aboard the Steadfast Dawn to discuss what she called next steps. Hyun Woo agreed immediately. This time, he assembled his senior staff. They gathered in the ship's small conference room, normally used for tactical planning. Jisoo, Dae-Hyun, Dr. Yoonji, Weapons Officer Sora, and Communications Officer Min-Soo. 5 people who had survived the impossible and now had to understand it. Minji arrived alone this time, a sign of trust that Hyun Woo appreciated. She took a seat across from him and placed a small data device on the table. This contains everything we know about the Keltheron Dominion's activities over the past 2 centuries. War crimes, genocides, slave operations, all of it. We are giving this to you freely. Why? Hyun Woo asked. This information must be valuable. It is, Minji agreed. But it is more valuable in your hands than ours. You are part of this galactic community. You have relationships, alliances, diplomatic channels. We are outsiders. If we start making accusations, we will be dismissed as warmongers or conquerors. But if the coalition presents this evidence, the galaxy will have to listen. Jisoo leaned forward. You want us to be your voice. We want you to be the voice of truth, Minji corrected. These are facts, not propaganda. 17 species extinct. Hundreds of billions dead. The Keltheron Dominion has been committing atrocities for centuries. And the galactic community has done nothing because they feared the cost of stopping them. And now you have removed that barrier, Haiyan-Wu said. You have shown that the Keltherons can be defeated. Exactly. But we cannot police the galaxy alone, nor do we want to. Humanity does not seek to rule anyone. We seek to create a galaxy where the strong do not prey upon the weak, where young species can grow without fear of extermination, where justice matters more than military power. Sora spoke up, her voice skeptical. Those are beautiful words, Commander. But how do we know you mean them? You possess weapons that could destroy any of us. What prevents humanity from becoming the next Dominion? Minji was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried a weight of old pain. Because we remember what it is like to be prey. Human history is not a story of peaceful progress. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. Wars, plagues, environmental collapse. We know what unchecked power does. We carry those scars forward. She activated the data device, projecting a hologram. It showed a planet, beautiful and blue. This is Earth. 300 years ago, we were on the brink of extinction. Our population had collapsed by half. Our atmosphere was toxic. Our oceans were dying. We survived because we changed. We learned that survival requires cooperation, not domination. The hologram shifted, showing cities rising from the ruins, forests regrowing, oceans healing. We rebuilt our world. And when we reached for the stars, we promised ourselves we would not export the cruelty that nearly killed us. We would be better. We would protect those who could not protect themselves. And the first thing you found was a ship full of dead colonists. Dr. Yoonji said softly. Minji nodded. Yes, that incident shaped our entire approach to the galaxy. We could have revealed ourselves then, demanded justice, started a war. Instead, we chose patience. We studied the galaxy, learned its politics, understood its power structures. And we prepared for the day when we could make a difference. Today, Haiyan-Wu said. Today, Minji confirmed. We chose this battle specifically because it represented everything wrong with the current galactic order. An aggressive empire committing genocide while the rest of the galaxy debated and did nothing. We intervened because no one else would. Minsu had been quiet until now, but he raised his hand tentatively. Commander, may I ask a personal question? Of course. What made you join your military? Why do you fight? Minji smiled, and for the first time, it reached her eyes. My grandmother was a refugee. She fled a war on Earth when she was a child. She used to tell me stories about the people who saved her. Soldiers who could have left civilians behind, but chose to protect them instead. She said courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to act despite fear, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I joined the Terran Defense Forces to be like those soldiers, to be worthy of the sacrifice others made for my family. The room was silent. Haiyan-Wu looked at his crew and saw his own thoughts reflected in their faces. These humans were not conquerors. They were guardians who had the power to be tyrants, but chose a different path. What happens now? Haiyan-Wu asked. The Keltherans will not accept this defeat quietly. Their empire is vast. They will want revenge. Let them come, Minji said calmly. We are ready. But more importantly, the galaxy now knows they can be defeated. Other species will find courage. The Dominion's power was built on fear. We have broken that fear. An alarm interrupted them. Jisoo was on her feet instantly, checking her portable console. Her face went pale. Captain, we have new contacts. Massive sensor returns. It is another Kelthoran fleet, bigger than the last two combined. Haiyan Wu felt his stomach drop. How many ships did the Kelthorans have? Minji simply stood and activated her communicator. Fleet Admiral Taiyang, this is Commander Minji. We have incoming hostiles. Recommend full deployment. Taiyang's voice came back immediately. Already on it, Commander. All ships are moving to intercept. This ends today. Minji looked at Haiyan Wu. Captain, I suggest you and your crew move to a safe distance. What is about to happen will not be a battle. It will be a demonstration. The Kelthorans need to understand that resistance is futile. They need to see their empire broken so thoroughly that no one will ever fear them again. Will you destroy them all? Dr. Yunji asked quietly. No, Minji said firmly. We will defeat them, disable their ships, and take their leaders into custody. They will face justice for their crimes. But we will not become monsters to fight monsters. That is the line we will never cross. She walked to the door, then paused. Captain Haiyan Wu, you asked what prevents humanity from becoming the next Dominion. The answer is simple. We choose not to. Every day, with every decision, we choose to be better than our worst impulses. That is what makes us human. As Minji left, Haiyan Wu sat down heavily. Around him, his crew was processing everything they had heard. Finally, Haiyan spoke. Captain, do you believe her? Haiyan Wu thought about the question. He thought about the human in their medical bay, injured protecting strangers. He thought about Minji's words, about her grandmother. He thought about a species that nearly destroyed itself and chose to rebuild rather than repeat its mistakes. Yes, he said quietly. I believe her. And I think the galaxy is about to change in ways we cannot imagine. The Kelthoran Grand Admiral Korvax had served in the Dominion military for 43 years. He had overseen the conquest of 18 worlds. He had commanded fleets that brought entire species to their knees. He had never known defeat. As his command ship, the Crimson Vengeance, dropped out of jump space above Terran 5, he expected to find the remains of the Colony Defense Force, and perhaps a few stubborn holdouts to crush. What he found instead made his blood run cold. His tactical officer's voice was shaking. Admiral, I am reading over 400 unknown vessels in defensive formation around the planet. Mass estimates are off the scale. Energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. Korvax studied the display. The unknown ships were arranged in perfect geometric patterns, their formation so precise it had to be controlled by advanced artificial intelligence. Each vessel was large enough to be a capital ship. Together, they represented more firepower than he had ever seen in one place. And between his fleet and those ships were the burning remains of what had been 2 Kelthoran battle groups. Who are they? Korvax demanded. Unknown, Admiral. They are broadcasting as the Terran Defense Forces. No such civilization exists in any galactic records. Korvax felt the first stirring of unease. He had brought the largest fleet the Dominion could assemble on short notice. 700 warships, enough to conquer a dozen systems. But looking at those unknown vessels, perfectly positioned, utterly silent, he wondered if it would be enough. He pushed the thought away. The Dominion did not retreat. The Dominion did not show weakness. Open a channel, he ordered. All frequencies. The communication went through, and Korvax spoke with all the authority of the Dominion behind him. Unknown vessels. I am Grand Admiral Korvax of the Kelthoran Dominion. You have entered Dominion space and attacked Dominion forces. Identify yourselves immediately and explain this act of war. The response came from a male voice, older, carrying the weight of someone who had commanded for decades. Grand Admiral Korvax. I am Fleet Admiral Taiyang of the Terran Defense Forces. You are in violation of interstellar law. Your forces have committed acts of genocide against the civilian population of Terran 5. Your expansion ends today. Power down your weapons and prepare to surrender. Korvax felt rage replace his unease. You dare demand the surrender of the Dominion? We have ruled this sector for 3 centuries. We have crushed species more advanced than whatever backwater spawned you. You have one chance to withdraw before we erase you from existence. There was a pause. Then Fleet Admiral Taiyang spoke again, and his voice was colder now. We gave you a chance. You chose violence. So be it. Korvax opened his mouth to give the order to fire when his sensor officer screamed a warning. The unknown ships were moving. Not forward, not into an attack formation. They were simply there, and then they were somewhere else, as if space had folded around them. One moment, the Terran fleet was grouped around Terran 5. The next moment, they were distributed throughout the Keltheron formation, perfectly positioned to engage from multiple angles. All ships fire at will. Korvax roared. Destroy them. 700 Keltheron warships opened fire simultaneously. The space between fleets lit up with energy weapons, missiles, and kinetic projectiles. Enough firepower to sterilize a planet hammered into the Terran vessels. Korvax watched his tactical display, waiting for the unknown ships to start dying. They did not die. Shields flared around each Terran vessel, geometric patterns of light that seemed to redirect the incoming fire rather than simply absorbing it. Some shots were deflected back at the Keltheron fleet. Others simply vanished, as if erased from reality. Not a single Terran ship showed damage. Then the humans returned fire. The first volley was not meant to kill. Korvax realized that immediately. The Terran weapons precisely targeted engines and weapon systems, leaving life support and critical systems intact. Keltheron ships suddenly found themselves without power to their main guns or without the ability to maneuver. It was surgical, efficient, and terrifying. Admiral, they are disabling us. His tactical officer reported. They are not trying to destroy our ships. They are trying to capture them. Then we make them kill us. Korvax snarled. He opened the fleet channel. All ships ramming speed. If they will not let us fight, we will make them destroy us to stop us. A dozen Keltheron vessels responded, burning toward the nearest Terran ships at maximum acceleration. They never made it. The human ships moved again, at impossible folding of space, and suddenly they were behind the charging vessels. Precision shots destroyed the engines of each ship, leaving them drifting helplessly. On the bridge of his flagship Remembrance, Fleet Admiral Taiyang watched the battle unfold with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The Keltherans fought bravely. He would give them that. They fought with the desperation of a species that knew they were facing extinction. But bravery alone was not enough. Status report, he ordered. His tactical officer, a young woman named Hannah, responded immediately. Sir, we have disabled 60% of the enemy fleet. 0 casualties on our side. The Keltherans are attempting kamikaze runs, but we are intercepting all attempts. Maintain capture protocols, Taiyang said. I want as many of them alive as possible. These people will stand trial for their crimes. Yes, sir. Sir, the Keltheron command ship is attempting to flee. Taiyang studied his display. The Crimson Vengeance was burning hard for the jump point, abandoning its fleet. He felt a flash of contempt. A true commander stayed with their forces until the end. Disable it. Non-lethal, if possible. The Remembrance moved, and space folded around it. One moment, it was in the middle of the battle. The next moment, it was directly in front of the fleeing command ship. A single shot lanced out, precisely targeted. The Crimson Vengeance's engines died, and the massive ship began to tumble, its momentum carrying it forward without control. Aboard the Steadfast Dawn, Captain Hyan Wu and his crew watched the battle with a mixture of awe and horror. It was not a battle. It was a lesson. The humans were showing the Keltharans that every tactic they knew, every strategy they had refined over centuries, was useless. When the Keltharans tried to use their numbers, the humans appeared in multiple locations simultaneously. When they tried to use superior firepower, the humans simply absorbed or redirected it. When they tried to sacrifice themselves, the humans stopped them without killing them. They are not fighting, Jisoo said quietly. They are teaching. They are showing the Keltharans that resistance is futile. It is more than that, Daehyun added. They are showing the entire galaxy. This battle is being recorded by every ship, every station in the sector. Everyone will see what happened here. Sora was studying the human tactics with professional interest. They are adapting in real time. Every time the Keltharans try something new, the humans counter it within seconds. That should not be possible. No AI is that fast. No tactical computer can process information that quickly. It is not AI, Minsu said. He had been monitoring the human communications. They are coordinating naturally. I can hear their fleet chatter. They are joking with each other, encouraging each other, adapting their strategies based on intuition and experience. They are fighting like a single organism, but each part is thinking independently. Jian-Wu understood what Minsu was saying. The Keltharan fleet fought with rigid discipline, each ship following programmed responses to specific threats. The human fleet fought with fluid creativity, each commander making independent decisions that somehow fit perfectly with the overall strategy. It was the difference between a machine and a living thing. The battle lasted 41 minutes. When it ended, the Keltharan fleet was either destroyed or disabled. Not a single Terran ship had been lost. Not a single human casualty had been reported. It was the most one-sided engagement Hyan Wu had ever witnessed. Fleet Admiral Taiyang's voice came across all frequencies, speaking to the entire sector. To all civilizations receiving this message, hear this declaration. Humanity has emerged into galactic society. We come in peace and offer friendship to all who desire it. We offer trade, cultural exchange, and cooperation. But make no mistake about what you have witnessed here today. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Keltharan Dominion built its power on fear and violence. They conquered the weak and slaughtered those who resisted. For 3 centuries, the galaxy allowed this to continue because the cost of stopping them seemed too high. That age is over. Humanity will not tolerate aggression against the defenseless. We will not stand by while species are driven to extinction. We will not allow the strong to prey upon the weak. Any civilization that continues policies of genocide, slavery, or aggressive conquest will face the consequences. This is not a threat. It is a promise. We do not seek to rule the galaxy. We do not demand tribute or submission. We ask only that civilizations treat each other with dignity and respect. Those who do will find humanity to be a loyal friend and valuable ally. Those who refuse will find us to be an implacable enemy. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Across the sector, on 1,000 worlds and 10,000 ships, beings of every species processed what they had just heard. The balance of power that had defined galactic politics for centuries had just shifted. A new player had entered the game, and they had shown they could win it. On the bridge of the crippled Crimson Vengeance, Grand Admiral Korvax sat in his command chair and stared at the display showing his defeated fleet. His hands were shaking. For the first time in his long military career, he felt fear. Not fear of death, but fear of what he had awakened. The Dominion had ruled through strength, And strength had just proven meaningless against these humans. A transmission came through from the remembrance. Fleet Admiral Taiyang's face appeared on his screen, and Korvax saw something in the human's eyes that chilled him. Not hatred or cruelty, but judgment. Cold, implacable judgment. Grand Admiral Korvax, you are hereby under arrest for crimes against sentient life. You and your officers will be transferred to human custody and held until formal trial. I suggest you cooperate. We have been merciful today, but our mercy has limits. Korvax wanted to rage, to threaten, to do anything but accept this humiliation. But looking at the human admiral's face, he knew that resistance would only make things worse. The Dominion was beaten. Truly, completely beaten. The galaxy had changed, and there was no going back. I surrender, he said, the words tasting like poison. The fleet is yours. As human boarding parties began securing the Kelthoran ships, Captain Haiyan Wu turned to his crew. Get me a connection to Coalition Command. They need to know what happened here. Everything is different now. Jisoo nodded and began working her console. But she paused and looked at her captain. Sir, what do we tell them? How do we explain this? Haiyan Wu thought for a moment, then smiled grimly. We tell them the truth. We tell them that humanity has arrived, and the galaxy will never be the same. 3 days after the battle, the galaxy was still reeling. Every news service, every communication network, every diplomatic channel was filled with discussions about the humans. Some called them saviors. Others called them a new threat. Most simply called them the unknown, a force that had emerged from nowhere and changed everything in the span of a few hours. Captain Haiyan Wu stood in the observation deck of the Steadfast Dawn. Watching the reconstruction efforts around Terran 5, human engineering vessels worked alongside coalition ships, repairing damaged stations and helping restore planetary infrastructure. The humans had brought aid without being asked, medical supplies and food for the refugees, technical assistance for the damaged ships. They were making good on their promises of friendship, but Haiyan Wu could not shake his unease. Everything had happened so fast. One day, the Kelthoran Dominion was an unstoppable force. The next day, they were prisoners awaiting trial. One day, the coalition was weak and fragmented. The next day, they had a powerful ally they knew nothing about. It was too much change. Too quickly. The door behind him opened. He did not need to turn around to know who it was. Commander Minji had a distinctive way of walking, purposeful but not aggressive. She came to stand beside him, looking out at the stars. You have questions, she said. It was not a question. I have 1,000 questions, Haiyan Wu admitted. But the biggest one keeps me awake at night. Why did you wait so long? You said you discovered the galactic community 40 years ago. You watched the Kelthorans commit atrocities for 4 decades. How many people died while you prepared? Minji was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was heavy with old pain. That is the question that haunts us all, Captain. Every human officer, every diplomat, every leader who knew the truth. We watched people die while we prepared, and we will carry that guilt for the rest of our lives. She turned to face him. But you need to understand something. 40 years ago, humanity was not ready. We had faster-than-light travel, yes. We had weapons, yes. But we did not have the technology to face the Kelthoran fleet and win. If we had revealed ourselves then, we would have started a war we could not finish. The Kelthorans would have crushed us, and then they would have turned their attention to finding Earth. They would have hunted us to extinction. So you waited until you could win. Haiyan Wu said. We waited until we could make a difference, Minji corrected. There is a distinction. We did not just develop better weapons. We developed the infrastructure to sustain a long-term presence in this region. We established supply lines, built bases in deep space, created diplomatic protocols. We learned your languages, your cultures, your histories. We wanted to understand what we were protecting before we started protecting it. She gestured to the human ships outside. Every vessel you see out there represents years of preparation. Every officer has studied galactic law and interspecies relations. Every soldier has been trained in non-lethal engagement protocols. We did not come here to conquer. We came here to change a broken system. That required more than just military strength. And now you are here, Haiyan-Wu said. What happens next? Will you police the entire galaxy? Will you decide who lives and who dies? No, Minji said firmly. We will not be the galaxy's police force. That is not sustainable, and it is not what we want. Our goal is to break the cycle of violence, to show that aggression has consequences. Once that message is understood, it will be up to the galactic community to maintain peace. You think it will be that simple? Haiyan-Wu asked skeptically. I think it will be complicated and messy and imperfect, Minji replied. But it will be better than what existed before. The Kel'Thuran Dominion ruled through fear. When we broke them, we broke that fear. Other species will start to resist oppression. Smaller civilizations will find courage. The balance of power will shift. She paused. We are not naive, Captain. We know that new threats will emerge. We know that some species will test our resolve. But we are committed to this path. Humanity survived because we learned to cooperate, to protect the weak, to value life over power. We want to share those values with the galaxy. Before Haiyan-Wu could respond, his communicator chimed. It was Jisu. Captain, you need to come to the bridge. We are receiving a transmission from Coalition Command. They want to speak with both you and Commander Minji. It is urgent. The bridge was crowded when they arrived. In addition to Haiyan-Wu's regular crew, there were representatives from 3 other Coalition species present via hologram. The Coalition president, an elderly Yulmer named Juho, appeared on the main screen. His face was deeply lined with age and worry. Captain Haiyan-Wu, Commander Minji, Junho said formally. The Coalition Council has spent the past 3 days in emergency session, debating the implications of recent events. We have reviewed the evidence you provided regarding Kel'Thuran war crimes. We have analyzed the battle footage. We have received reports from our intelligence services about human capabilities. He paused, seeming to gather his strength. The Council is divided. Some members see humanity as a liberating force, a powerful ally that can help us resist aggression. Others see you as a potential threat, a military power that could dominate the galaxy as thoroughly as the Kel'Thurans. Minji stepped forward. President Junho, humanity has no desire to dominate anyone. Our intervention at Terran 5 was necessary to prevent genocide. Our actions against the Kel'Thuran fleet were necessary to establish our credibility. But we do not seek to expand our territory or impose our will on others. Then what do you seek? Junho asked. Partnership, Minji said simply. We want to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Coalition and other galactic civilizations. We want to share technology and knowledge. We want to create a framework for peaceful cooperation. And yes, we want to ensure that atrocities like those committed by the Kel'Thurans never happen again. How can we trust you? Another council member asked. This one was a Torvin, a species known for their skepticism. You have shown us your weapons. You have demonstrated your power. But power corrupts. How do we know you will not become the next empire? The question hung in the air. Haiyan-Wu found himself holding his breath, waiting for Minji's response. This was the crucial moment. Everything depended on whether the Coalition believed humanity's intentions. Minji took a deep breath. You cannot know for certain. Trust must be earned over time. But I can tell you this. Humanity's government is not controlled by a single emperor or dictator. We are a democratic federation of nations. Our military answers to civilian leadership. Our actions are subject to review and oversight. We have laws that forbid aggressive conquest and guarantee the rights of all sentient beings. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's political structure. More importantly, we remember our history. We remember when we were divided into competing nations, when we fought wars that killed billions. We remember the environmental collapse that nearly destroyed our world. Those memories shape our actions. We know what happens when power is abused. We have seen the consequences. Beautiful words, the Torvan counselor said. But words are easy. Actions speak louder. Then judge us by our actions, Minji replied. We saved Terran 5. We captured the Keltharan fleet rather than destroying it. We are providing aid to refugees without demanding payment. We are offering to share our technology with the Coalition. These are not the actions of conquerors. The council chambers fell silent. President Jung-ho looked at the other members, then back at Minji and Hyeon Woo. Captain Hyeon Woo, you have worked closely with the humans over the past few days. What is your assessment? Can we trust them? Hyeon Woo felt every eye in the room turn to him. This was not a question he had expected to answer. He thought about everything he had witnessed. The precision of human military operations. The restraint they had shown when they could have simply destroyed the Keltharan fleet. The aid they had provided without being asked. Commander Minji's words about her grandmother, about choosing to protect rather than dominate. He thought about the human soldier in their medical bay, injured protecting strangers. About Dr. Yoonji's analysis of human biology, a species built for survival in a hostile environment. About the way human ships coordinated, each commander making independent decisions that somehow formed a perfect whole. President Jun-ho, Hyeon Woo said slowly, I cannot tell you that humanity is perfect. I cannot guarantee they will never make mistakes, or that their intentions will never change. But I can tell you what I have observed. The humans could have destroyed the Keltharan fleet in minutes. Instead, they disabled the ships and took prisoners. They could have demanded tribute or territory as payment for their intervention. Instead, they offered aid freely. He looked at Minji, then back at the council. More importantly, they are asking for partnership, not submission. They are seeking our consent, not demanding our obedience. These are not the actions of a species that wants to dominate. I believe we should accept their offer of diplomatic relations and judge them by their continued actions. The council members conferred quietly among themselves. Finally, President Jun-ho spoke. Very well. The coalition formally accepts humanity's offer of diplomatic relations. We will establish embassies and begin negotiations on a framework for cooperation. But know this, Commander Minji, the galaxy will be watching. If humanity proves to be a threat, we will resist, even knowing the cost. We would expect nothing less, Minji said with a slight bow. Humanity has no interest in ruling unwilling subjects. We seek friends, not servants. The transmission ended. The bridge of the steadfast dawn was quiet, as everyone processed what had just happened. A new era had begun. The galaxy would never return to what it had been. For better or worse, humanity had changed the rules. Later that evening, Hyeon Woo found himself back in the observation deck. This time, he was not alone. His entire senior staff had gathered there, watching the human fleet prepare to depart. Most of the vessels were returning to human space, leaving only a small diplomatic contingent behind. Do you think we did the right thing? Jisoo asked quietly, recommending that the council accept their offer. I think we did the only thing we could, Hyeon Woo replied. The galaxy was broken. The strong preyed on the weak, and the rest of us debated and did nothing. The humans broke that cycle. Whether that is good or bad, we will learn in time. They scare me, Sora admitted. Not because they are hostile, but because they are so powerful. What if they change? What if they decide that being guardians is too much work and become conquerors instead? Then we will resist, Deion said firmly. We have allies now. We have hope. The Keltharans are beaten. Other species will find courage. The humans may have started this change, but we will shape what comes next. Dr. Yunji was studying a data pad showing human biological data. I have been thinking about what makes them different. It is not just their technology or their tactics. It is their perspective. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. They nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. They know what it is like to be vulnerable. That knowledge shapes their actions. Minsu nodded. I have been monitoring their communications. They talk about honor and duty, about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. These are not empty words to them. They are principles they genuinely believe in. Principles can change, Jisu pointed out. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. But for now, we have no choice but to trust them. Or at least, to give them the chance to prove themselves. The alternative is to reject their help and face the next threat alone. They watched in silence as the Indomitable began to move, preparing to jump to human space. Its massive hull reflected the light of Terran V's sun, a monument to human engineering and determination. Around it, the other human vessels formed up in perfect formation. Commander Minji's voice came through on Hyunwoo's personal communicator. Captain, before we depart, I wanted to thank you. Your recommendation to the Council made a significant difference. You could have counseled caution or outright rejection. Instead, you chose to trust us. I chose to trust what I observed, Hyunwoo corrected. You have given us reason to hope. Do not make me regret that choice. We will do our best to be worthy of that hope, Minji replied. Humanity is not perfect, Captain. We will make mistakes. But we will always try to do what is right, even when it is difficult. That is the promise I can make you. Then I will hold you to that promise, Hyunwoo said. The communicator went silent. The human fleet began to jump, one by one disappearing into the folded space of faster-than-light travel. Within minutes, they were gone, leaving only their diplomatic vessels behind. Hyunwoo turned to his crew. It is time to rebuild. The coalition has work to do. We need to strengthen our defenses, reform our political structures, and prepare for whatever comes next. The humans may have changed the galaxy, but it is up to us to shape that change into something lasting. His crew nodded in agreement. They had survived the impossible. They had witnessed the arrival of a new power. They had been given a second chance to build a better galaxy. It would not be easy. There would be challenges and setbacks and moments of doubt. But for the first time in decades, there was hope. As the stars wheeled overhead, Captain Hyunwoo allowed himself a small smile. The Keltharon Dominion thought they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They never considered that Earth might have forged something fiercer in its crucible. A species that chose to be guardians rather than conquerors, but possessed the strength to be either. The galaxy had changed. Nothing would stay the same. And perhaps Hyunwoo thought that was exactly what it needed.